Using trees and lists is a great way to organize selectable data. List is usually used as an element of a select box, however it can still be used on its own. Trees can organize data like an expandable file explorer. Looking first at the list, we need to make a list style. The background drawable is the box that contains the entire contents of the widget. We will create a 9-patch image. This can be a simple outlined box. Do not add too much padding here or your selections will look a little odd. List requires a font to display their items. We went over how to create a font in the buttons video. The user can click on any of the items to select it. To distinguish between selected and unselected items, set the font color selected and font color unselected color fields. I'm going to choose the colors red and blue for demonstration purposes, but choose colors that fit your theme instead. Another way to make selected items stand out is to specify a selection drawable. It could technically be a single pixel sized image that will be stretched. However, you'll want to add some padding to your selection drawable if you find your text getting squished against the background. I'm going to specify a stretch area over the gradient just in case the size of the font forces the drawable to stretch. You can manipulate the content area to make the text look indented or elevated. Note that the padding of the selected drawable affects the unselected items as well. You can also add over and down drawables for when the user mouses over and clicks on these items. This is our working list. Using a list is relatively simple. If you want to make a list of basic text options, you could do the following. Create a list instance. You should specify what kind of objects you are associating your list with. String is sufficient for typical use. You can use set items to set the clickable values in the list. Text in a list aligns to the left by default. You might want to change that to a center alignment, for example. Use set alignment align center. Here's a little known fact. You can set a list to automatically select an entry as the user types the words. Use the method setTypeToSelect with the parameter true. This requires the list to be clicked on or have keyboard focus assigned to it programmatically. Notice that you can completely type AAB and the selection will shift from AAA to AAB appropriately. List accepts any kind of object as the array of items, but only implements them as text via object-to-string. You can't add drawables or widgets to a list and expect them to display inside the list. To demonstrate this, I have a list consisting of a string literal, a label, and a drawable. They all display as mundane text. You might be wondering, what is the point of being able to specify a list type? It's useful when you need to use the selected object to do a task. This example creates a list of drawables. Then we can create an image below it. Whenever a selection is made, we are going to change the drawable of the image. Instead of having to do tedious lookups or type conversions, we can simply call list.getSelected. Now we are moving on to trees. Tree is like a list, but categories can be expanded or minimized. Trees can model different kinds of data, so we need to create appropriate drawables as icons for the plus and minus fields. If you're intending to represent data like a file directory, you'll need folder graphics to represent this. Otherwise, simple arrows or plus-minus icons will be enough. You can also specify mouse over variations with plus over and minus over. These react to the mouse hovering over these buttons. There are also fields for background and over, if you want to add some style to each line. I don't find this incredibly useful unless you want the tree items to be selectable. In that case, make sure to fill something in for the selection field. Implementing a tree widget in your UI isn't exactly a straightforward process. You need to make a subclass of tree.node. Then we can use this class to make the nodes of the tree. You can add children to each node, making a hierarchy of nodes. Users must click the icon to expand that node's values. Why is node so complicated? It is designed this way so that the generic type parameters don't need to be specified repeatedly. This can actually simplify your code tremendously. Take the example of the text node that takes a string text parameter. It takes that text and creates a label from it and sets the value of the node so it can be used later. Now that you have your nodes set up, you can modify them by setting the icon of a particular node. You can also change the spacing options. There is spacing between the icon and the text, the indentation spacing, and the vertical spacing between each node. When you make a tree, all the nodes are collapsed by default. If you want them all to be visible, use expandAll. Remember to use this after you define your nodes or it will not work.
Me when I think about my least favorite widgets.
That is one big damn tree.
Firing.
Repeat. Rifle fire.
Bingo. Good shooting, Ace.